Interlagos in Brazil has been a long-time favourite track of mine, spanning back many years. It features a rather unusual track layout with many slow to medium speed sweeping corners and a lot of elevation change. Despite the sheer number of slower corners, a higher downforce car setup isn't always the best approach, as a lot of corner speed can be found from just pure mechanical grip alone. This allows some of your aero setup to be targeted more at the long pitch straight where straight line speed is pretty important. So I've gone for an aero setup of 28 at the front and 25 at the rear, which may seem a little low for Brazil, but this keeps our aero setup pretty balanced between straight line speed and pure downforce. This approach will maximise our performance down the long pitch straight and the straight just before turn 4, which really helps with overtaking. But crucially, it also keeps enough downforce in the car to provide good performance throughout all of the corners. Now, many of those corners around Brazil don't feature typical acceleration zones. Instead, many feature gradual acceleration zones where you're still turning through and out of the corner as you're hitting the throttle. This allows us to run an off-throttle differential which isn't completely open. Go with 54% on the on-throttle diff and 52% on the off-throttle diff. For the suspension geometry, I've opted for a pretty traditional approach of minimal camber and toe. Go -2.5 and -1.1 on the camber, and 0 and 0.1 on the toe. For the suspension, I've tried to create stability in the car by not setting anything too stiff, but also keeping enough rigidity in the car through the anti-roll bars to maximise mid-corner speed. Go 26 and 8 on the suspension setup and 6 and 8 on the anti-roll bar setup. Then go and opt for a ride height of 35 and 38. With a fair few corners that feature shorter braking zones, opt for a more rearward brake bias of 53% and pair that with our normal 100% brake pressure. I've split our front tyre pressures to help reduce wear on the front right, which takes the most punishment around Brazil. Go with 22.8 psi and 22.9 psi on the front tyres, and then opt for 20.3 psi on both rears. And that's our Brazilian car setup for Interlagos in F1 23. The important thing with this track is to really create a car that doesn't understeer on the approach to the corner and remains stable throughout the entirety of the turn. The corners here are much longer and more sweeping than at other tracks in F1 23, which does go a long way to actually making this track extremely fun to drive around. Now we're nearing the end of the F1 23 car setups, getting closer towards Abu Dhabi and those bonus tracks of China, Portugal and France. But I'm going to be releasing a lot more F1 23 content moving forward, so if you're enjoying it so far, consider subscribing and also hit that like button, as it'll just help with the YouTube algorithm and get this video out to more people. But for now guys, enjoy this setup and I'll see you on track.